Good afternoon,
I
councillors.
still have no chat, Tina.
Good afternoon, councillors. I'm just trying to sort out some chat for people. Welcome to the personnel meeting. It's our first live personnel meeting. And what we're going to start off with is that we are going to start off with the election of the new chair and vice chair. If I can start through, first of all, I will just go through who is present for the public. So I have councillors Canham, Harvey, Robinson, Crawford, Hollis, Brindle, Brame, and Councillor Jeremy is also in the meeting but is non-voting as he's not a member of the committee. So could I just check with councillors Brame and Robinson that they are now able to see chat?
No.
Because I've made you presenters.
I haven't got chat either, Chris Harvey.
No, I haven't got chat.
Right. Well, chat is up. Let me just write in it and see if it's because it's going to be the first. Has that come up in people's chat?
Nope.
No.
All right. I have no idea why that's not working then.
I've got hello, Tina.
It may well be that councillors haven't come in on their Thetford Town Council email addresses.
Yes, I did.
So what we will have to do then, because we need to move on, is I will ask for people to vote. I will call out their names and ask for their votes that way. So if you have your mics off for the moment for the nomination, or on for the moment for the nominations, if I move on to item 1320, which is the election of chair and vice chair, could I open the floor to the councillors for any nominations for the position of chair, please?
I'd like to nominate Mark Robinson, please. Chris Harvey.
Chris Harvey, okay. And can I have a seconder for that, please? Is there any other nominations for the chair?
Yeah, I would like to nominate Roy Brain due to the nature of this post being chair personnel. I think the mayor has a lot on his plate this year, helping the businesses getting up and running, and his own businesses plus his work at Breckland. I think Roy's done it in the past and he's done a fantastic job.
Could I ask for a seconder, please, for that?
I'll second that, Councillor Wallace.
And can I just ask again if there's a seconder for Councillor Robinson?
Yes, I'll second Councillor Robinson.
Okay.
That's Mike Brendel. I've still got a blank screen, so I can't tell what is going on.
Okay. Yep. That's no problem. Okay, then, and can we take this to the vote then, please? What I'll do is I'll read out the names, and if you could tell me who you are voting for. So, Councillor Canham.
Roy Brain.
Councillor Robinson.
Myself.
Councillor Crawford.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Councillor Hollis.
Councillor Brame.
Councillor Brindle.
Councillor Robinson.
Okay, I think that's, I haven't missed any councillors out, have I?
I haven't voted yet.
No, me
Oh, sorry. Councillor Brame.
I'll vote for me.
Okay, and is that everybody's votes?
Well, I proposed him. Do I not get to vote as well?
Oh, yeah, sorry, Chris.
It's not an issue. I'm used to being ignored. I'm married.
What can I say?
I'll vote for Councillor Robinson, please.
Okay, so that is a that's a tie between the 3 votes. So the current chair gets the casting vote.
Can I change my abstention to a vote? Is that possible?
I would say not really, no,
Okay, right.
because you can't change it because you've seen the outcome of the other votes.
Okay, I just thought I could break the deadlock, but that's okay with me.
So, Councillor Robinson?
Actually, Tina, I would like to explore Councillor Crawford's comment because it has put me in a rather difficult position. This, and I accept what you're saying, but if he's quite happy to come down on one side of the fence or the other, I'm quite happy to see him do that.
If
My
everybody else,
colleagues
yeah, if the rest of the councillors will go with that.
I'd like to know why I abstained
I don't
first time first.
I don't think he has to explain that, to be honest.
No.
Well, I'm willing to if you want to hear, but
No, it's only curious, Dennis. That's all. Nothing personal.
no, nothing is personal. I'm in a dilemma, and I happen to think that both of the candidates are of equal value, and so I was having a hard time making a decision for once, and that's why I abstained at the time. But if it comes to a tie vote, I've got to man up and do what's, you know.
No, that's a fair comment, then, Dennis. No, that's okay.
Mhm. So what have we decided?
We're waiting on Dennis.
Oh, right. Oh, you're going to allow me to vote again?
I've got no problem with it.
Okay.
No, I don't have any problem.
Right. Okay. I think coming to a decision is a hard one because I think, but I think that with the workload that Mark Robinson's got, I think I'm going to go to Roy Brain, please.
Okay. I seem to have lost Councillor Robinson out of the meeting.
No, you haven't.
Are you back in?
Still on my
No, I
picture.
never left.
All right, you're back in. Okay, so that would
No,
make...
Tina, I never left. Tina, I never left.
All right, because you disappeared off my screen. Okay.
Okay.
Very bizarre. Okay, so that would make it now in favour of Councillor Brame for the position of chair for this year. Councillor Brame, would you like to take over the rest of the proceedings, please?
Yes, fine, no problem at all. Thank you very much. I'd just like to say thank you all, and I say we'll try and have a good year. The same item 1320 is election of vice chair. How many nominations do we have?
Could I make a nomination, please?
You can.
Over the past couple of years, Dennis has worked really hard on, I'm trying to think what they're called, subcommittees of the personnel, where he's had to look into things, and I think he'll do a good job as your deputy for the forthcoming year.
Lovely. So we have one nomination for Dennis. Do we have a seconder?
I second that. I think Dennis will be an asset because he's done the mayoral duties and he had sat on disciplinaries, etc. So I think he'd be an asset to you, Councillor Brame. So I
Thank you very
second
much.
it.
Any other nominations?
Yeah, can I nominate Councillor Brindle, please? Since he was vice, or has been chair in the past and vice chair in the past.
Right. And
I'll second that, and I'll explain the reason why. I think particularly at a time where we're dealing with an unprecedented situation, Mike, with his experience of HR, particularly within the public sector and a big organisation, his experience will be invaluable. So it's actually Mike's what we need at the moment.
Yeah, couldn't agree more.
okay, so we have two nominations, Councillor Brindle and Councillor Crawford. I've got the list up here, so I'll go through one at a time.
Excuse me, Councillor
and-
Braham, you still need to go out to see if there's any more nominations
was gonna
before
say,
you
yeah.
close it down.
Yeah, any more nominations? No? So we go forward to the vote. Councillor Canham,
Dennis Crawford.
Councillor Robinson,
An emphatic Mr. Brindle.
Councillor Crawford,
I will vote for myself.
Councillor Hollis,
Councillor Crawford,
Councillor Brindle,
And myself.
Councillor Harvey.
Councillor Brindle.
Is that everybody?
It is apart from yourself, Chair, and it's a tie.
So you've got to vote, Mr. Roy.
We've got 5 votes.
Yeah.
Thought there were
I
5
will-
votes.
I will vote for Councillor Crawford.
Can we just check the number of votes, please?
Yes, there's 3 votes each.
Without Councillor Brown.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, so it's a tie, and then so he's got a casting vote. Is that right?
yes.
Okay. I
Okay.
understand.
And I will vote for Councillor Crawford.
Thank you.
So going back to the agenda, that gives us myself as chair and Councillor Crawford as vice chair. Moving on to 1420, declarations of pecuniary interests. Do we have anybody?
None, thank you.
None?
no, thank you.
Apologies for absence.
I
None?
haven't received any.
Well, we're all here, I think.
No, we are missing
Other
one
than-
committee member.
Yeah, okay. Minutes of the last meeting, they have been circulated.
Excuse me, Chair, for
Let's have a look.
interrupting. Is there any chance that they change the picture on this screen so I can follow what's the
Yes,
agenda?
sorry, yes, that's
Thank
mine.
you.
Yeah, there we go.
Thank you.
So we're looking at 1620, Tina. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, could I also interrupt? Sorry to do so, but again, it's a technical thing. I've got nothing on my screen at the moment, just got a blank white. Is there any reason?
Well, we've got you.
Yeah,
What have you actually got on your screen?
I've got a blank screen that at the top says Tina Cannon started recording, and at the bottom says to presenter in a small box and take control in a small box.
I think you might have clicked off the video link.
Okay, so I should be able to get that back by just clicking on the camera. Actually, I
Yeah.
can't click on the camera. The camera's on according to the.
No.
the-
Yeah,
It
but
may
hang
be
on, Mike.
easier to,
I can see you, Mike.
Councillor
Did you-
Brindle, it may be easier to click out of the meeting and click back in, because then it will just bring you back to this screen.
Actually, I've got
Okay,
nothing,
I'll see if I
so
can
I've got
do
to come
that.
back
So
in.
can't be up for that. Okay, sorry to interrupt, Rolly,
Yeah, no, that's fine. We need to get
Can you get out?
everybody on so that they can see what's happening.
because I can't get out at the moment.
Oh, I'm back. I'm back. I had a blank screen. All I could see was myself through the reflection.
Right, Brenda's back. Now, Mike can't go off
Right.
and on again. Or has he?
Thanks for that, Roy. Roy, what I've got at the moment is a page screen that says 1620, but I can't move it, and I can't scroll it in any way. So that's all I've got at the moment.
That's fine. That's all it is because you received the papers beforehand.
Okay, so I've got a screen that says 16:20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you very much.
Right, so you're up and running.
Hopefully.
Okay. So they have been circulated to everybody via email. Is there anybody got any queries with accuracy?
No.
No.
I have agreement that they are a correct record.
Yes, Chair.
Agreed.
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 Thank you. Move the minutes. Moving on to 1720, review personnel committee's terms of reference. Now I am in a problem because I haven't got any of those, unless Tina can put them up on the screen.
What I've sent out was 2 terms of reference. One was the old terms of reference, which indicated in red the parts of which are now taken up in other parts of our policy. And then we also put out a new terms of reference, because what we're trying to do is template terms of reference for all the committees so that they look the same, much the same as in our other policies, and that they follow the same flow as each other. So when you pick them up, they all read the same. So is it only Councillor Brame who doesn't have these?
I do have it. I hadn't gone along the top far enough.
All right, okay.
Yes.
So
Is there some way we can move on from? I've got the minute screen. Is there some way we can move on from that? Or should it be done for us, or do we have to do?
We are now on, the screen is on 1720, review of personnel committee terms of reference.
Okay, my screen is still on 1620.
Oh, it may be that your internet is taking a while to keep up with it.
I've lost.
I think it's the internet,
Only
because
taken-
mine
haven't
keeps
got
going in and out.
2% button.
I must admit, it seems to
No,
be a very
I've got
poor
the-
day for internet today.
I've got the 2% button now. So if I click on that, which I've just done,
Yeah.
that's moved to 17. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chairman, can I just point something out, please?
You can.
I know we're all sitting here and we're discussing the things coming up on the documents, but we actually had these documents on the 27th of May. So I feel we could proceed with the item because we've had sufficient time to actually read the document.
Scrutinise them, yes.
I agree entirely, Councillor Robinson. It was purely and simply I hadn't gone far enough along. I've transferred it. I have 2 machines working, so I can now do that. So I don't know how many other people, you can't flick between email and here. It gets a bit complicated. It's one of the downfalls of this thing. But yes, you are right. If we look at the terms of reference, if everybody can see them, you will see that in the first paragraph, financial regulation update via finance as part of audit requirements has been added in red.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Can I just say that that's the old one, and you need to go across to the new one, because we had to update that. We had to take it out because it's actually part of the finance committee's role to do that for the audit.
Yeah,
So there is, if you go along, there's a new personnel committee terms of reference, which has the crest at the top of it. That was put in.
Thank you, Clark. Yeah, I have found that now. Again, it didn't say terms of reference on mine. I thought it was for the next bit, but yes, I have got that. So coming under the terms of reference, membership, 3 councillors must be present to be quorum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chair and vice chair will be agreed on an annual basis at the first committee meeting within agreed annual calendars of meetings.
Agreed.
yeah.
Councillor Robinson has his hand up.
Sorry.
I've had my hand up for quite some time, actually. Rather than going through this verbatim, can I just make a couple of comments on this? The first one would have been on the 3 councillors must be present to be quorate. Well, I thought we worked on a percentage or a fraction because it depends on how many members there are of the personnel committee. So should
Yes, it would be 3 for this one.
well, it's dependent on numbers because other members might wish to join throughout the course of the year. And then I was just going to refer back to our old terms of reference. And there's just before you get to the role of the chairperson, there's a sentence that is to deal with any complaints against the council or individual councillors using the procedures as detailed in standing orders and allied documents as appropriate. That's obviously not in this new option. So I'm just putting it out there. Are we comfortable with that?
Actually, if you go into the responsibilities of the committee,
Yeah.
it does talk about to take an overview of all staffing matters. This will include, but not limited to, recruitment, contracts, pay, benefits, discipline and complaints.
Tina?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. But actually, it's slightly different. There's a nuance because in the old one, it says to deal with complaints against the council or individual councillors.
Well,
now, I'm
but
pretty sure we never have to use it.
No, that actually has to go to Breckland. So now we're not allowed to deal with complaints about town
Okay.
councillors at town council level.
I must admit, it is very difficult doing this without the chat feature. Sorry, Mark.
No, you're fine, Roy. I
Looking at
appreciate
the screen, didn't see your
We're
hand.
learning.
Having done one of the internet has been very bad today because I was at Norwich all morning. We had the same problems. It was very
Yeah.
slow and people were not getting bits. But
Excuse me, do you have the raise your hand thing on your action bar? Because there is a little handprint.
No.
You don't
Yeah,
get
I've
that
got
either
that.
as a guest. Okay.
I just haven't got the chat.
Okay.
But again, taking these, Mark has had a couple of things that are you now happy with the answers that you've had to that, Councillor Robinson?
I'm happy with the latter answer. I don't think the answer to the 3 councillors must be present to be quorate. I think they could just do a bit of a tidying up, Chair.
Right. Can we just reword that to a minimum of 3 councillors? That would be at all times, and I can't remember the percentage terms of the number of people that are on there. You know, it has got to be a third or 3 at a minimum, because we're 3 this time, but you do need to have something so that you can actually meet, because sometimes on a staff matter you need to do it quickly. So it needs to have both bits in there.
We can lift the wording out of standing orders.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll take the we'll redo that to the reading of standing orders. Yeah. Is there anything else on this revised terms of reference?
Not from me.
No, I'm looking at it. I can't see. Yeah, I'm looking at it. I can't see anything else.
Yeah. So we all agree. We will agree the terms of reference with that proviso that the quorate will be as of standing orders for the council. Agreed?
Agreed.
In that case, we can move on to the next item, which we could have done if I hadn't have just lost it. There we go. So I'm trying to use 2 hands here. There we go. Right. So that leads us on to review of objectives for 2021, 18-20. Has everybody looked at the old objectives? Because with this, it's basically trying to look after our staff, isn't it? So it's not like we can just pick things out of the air.
Also, we wanted it reviewed to see if there was anything you felt that we needed to put in reference COVID-19, because it is actually for the forthcoming year, but we just wanted the opportunity for councillors to amend it if they felt that was appropriate.
Has anybody anything they want to add into that bit?
No, I think that comment speaks for itself. I think as a council we should all work together. I don't think we should be so negative about Thetford Town Council, because we are, as councillors, Thetford Town Council, and we should be working and supportive of our staff. And I think that paragraph says it really.
I was just going through the clarity of decision making, which is, everything seems to be fine. So anything else on there that anybody has any problems with? Mark has his hand up.
Thank you, Roy. I think this is actually an ideal opportunity. This objective, we can expand upon it with the way we've had to adapt to working, and actually opens up opportunities also to talk to people. I don't agree with Councillor Callum's comments actually about we're negative about Town Council. I think as a body generally we're supportive of what the officers do. So I don't agree with that comment. But it is, with the way we're now accessing virtual meetings, it opens up the opportunities for us to work closer with the staff. I would like to see us improve on the wellbeing side of things actually going forward. And I know that work's already been underway. So yeah, I'm quite happy for this to stick with this and stay and expand it further.
I think what I would like to do is to put this as an agenda item going forward. It will give us chance to have a little look, and then we can actually bring something to the table. I'd like to see something about how we work with the staff with more of this virtual, and I would like to see some information coming forward on how we as members will react to it. So I think it's something that really does need to keep coming back, and I'd like to see that possibly over the next 2 meetings, so that we get this together and correct that we are supportive of each other, supportive of the staff, and use this technology, because I think this technology is going to make life a lot different and possibly a lot easier as time goes on, because when you can't be there, you can actually get things and you can have individual meetings. The big thing that I think we're going to have to watch, and we need to get some policy in place, is that we will have individual meetings with staff members. Now, that's a very tricky thing to start to do. You wouldn't put them into that position in an office, particularly, not without making appointment, sorting out what the meeting was going to be about. And I think we need some policy in place so that we can use this technology in that way. So it's something I'd like to do a bit more work on. How do people feel?
Agree.
Yeah, everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll move on from there to 21-20 for a training update, which will possibly take on some of what we've just heard. Just give that over to the clerk.
Mr. Chair, you've just bypassed a review of budgets. They're not that bad, I promise.
You're looking good.
Yeah, I apologise. I missed that bit. Yeah.
Would you like me to go through the highlights?
Yes, please.
I'll start with positives because they're always good. Actually, we realised savings in salaries due to the markets and toilets being closed for 3 months, and the increase that was budgeted for 1920 wages in general was lower than we budgeted. And what was also reflected is that the Stanley Forth salary costs are no longer included as they're charged directly. Pension strain costs, the provision wasn't used, but the contribution rate has raised to 23%. In training, we put in extra provision for more councillor training because it was an election year. Not all of that was spent. So we ended up with a positive in that one. Recruitment, we didn't hold any recruitment last year, so all of the recruitment budget was unspent. King's House facilities, obviously there was one-off costs incurred after vacating the offices in King's House, and so that budget came in under as well. The electricity, we have actually made savings from moving the administration offices and closing Telford Way. And we've actually saved more money than we predicted, which is good. And with the gases wasn't quite such a good. We found out that some of the gas accounts had previously been included in the electricity, and so we've had to go back and resort out the accounting processes for that. The waste disposal was higher, but that's because we had the allotment clearing costs within the waste disposal. But this is being charged in a different way next year, so it's more reflective of what is spent within the committee. We used our equipment support and maintenance budget, and obviously we went into the reserves in order to get the tablets for the councillors and to go 365. We saved.
Can we just go back a bit there, Tina, please? The waste at the allotments.
Yes.
So one assumes that in future that will come under allotments committee, because that's not all staff charges, is it?
Yeah, well, the thing is now that we've reviewed all our codes and we've set up the accounting in a different way, it's easier to identify these things and split them out. So, you know, it basically all before was just coming under one waste disposal code, but now we can actually split it out because we now go by department rather than code. We can actually break down any of these, like for staff, we can break down how much, you know, goes to whatever, although staff is a very bad example because we all work across the piece now. So like for electricity, although we've got one electricity charge, we can actually break it down as to where those charges are falling, because we've just changed the way that we do the accounting and reporting. So we will be able to highlight more where the costs are actually genuinely falling, which will make forecasting and budgeting hopefully more efficient in the future.
That's right. I just realised, looking at my picture, I'm sending you all a picture of my bureau, which is not great use for anybody.
And lastly, we also made savings on the insurances because obviously we renegotiated our insurances, and because of the it went down quite significantly because we now are running from one centre and not 3. Councillor Hollis has her hand up.
Yes, I can see. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't see the budgets. I can't find the agenda items for them. So I'm listening to you, but I can't actually view them.
They were sent out in an email to everyone.
I can't find not with the agenda. Were they sent separate? Sorry.
Yes, they were.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
Yes, I was going to say I've got them separately, but I've got them on this computer separately. not on the other one. So I will have to go back and look through those.
So
But,
if I tell you the overall,
Yeah.
the overall budget for 1920 was 634,649, and we brought it in at 577,932. The problem with that is they're only an in-year saving, because now we forecast our budget on actual spend, and therefore our budget has been forecasted on the actuals rather than the budget was set up year to year.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll get that as a future way of doing it. Yes.
Yeah.
So our accounts now are actually going to be almost a living item.
Yes.
Oh, that's going to be good, because we can now actually see where we are within any 1 year and not where we hope to be or whatever.
Yeah.
And we can see when we're not catching what we're supposed to do. Oh, that's a bonus.
Could I just
Personnel-
jump in there, Chairman?
Yeah.
Sorry, I've been sat here peacefully. I've just been having a look, Tina, because I was looking for the budget report, as I often do. I assumed I'd not been sent it because I'm not a committee member. So if you're digging it out for other people, would you mind just copying me into that, just because I like to keep a track of sort of, the budget stuff?
Yeah, I'll send it to you after the meeting, Terry.
Lovely, thank you very much.
I particularly like to share good news.
Can we also put something in there just to let people know the differences? Because I know there's a lot of people who don't do finance, and they're not going to realise how much of a difference that makes to be actually able to look at a semi-live document as opposed to predictive text that we've always worked with. So that might just be nice to have some little bit there so that they can have a look at it and see where we are.
I mean, it is a change for us to be forecasting against actuals, because before we tended to just do a budget for 5 years and we just uplifted the budget with some additions, whereas now we're actually forecasting against actuals. So that is quite it's a more effective way of forecasting our budget.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's yeah.
And things like this year, we will be able to filter out the stuff that is a 1 year savings from us moving, because obviously you won't get the same savings again because now we've budgeted differently. So yeah, but that will all become apparent. The only problem that personnel has is we tend to be about 2 days after month end. So there may be 1 or 2 transactions that come in after month end that you won't see until the next month. But on the whole, you'll get 85% of the spend, and we'll have an up-to-date document as much as we can do, because we used to get them a month in arrears.
Yeah. Equally, though, the budget that we run is normally doesn't get any great bits that jump out at you.
No.
If we need training, then we already know we need it. So if it isn't in the budget, you will have update papers to say it's not in the budget because we didn't know until 3 days ago that we needed to train people to do whatever. Yeah.
And one of the things that obviously moving forward is we have the budget for this year, but we have already been doing things like buying hand gel and hand sanitizer and all the COVID-19 items. So there will be a cost this year because of COVID-19 that isn't going to appear in any other years, because if things are put into place, they'll become part of our normal budget. So again, there'll be one-off spend this year for COVID-19 that we won't include in next year's budget.
Okay. Anything else that we need to know? No? Everybody happy with that?
It looked like good news to me.
Yeah. Okay. We will move on to 2020. Committee structure. I assume, Tina, that this is going to be appraisals and that type of thing, and how we're going to sort the work out between us?
Well, this is, we were asked way back BC before COVID in February and March, we were asked to look at reviewing the committee structure, because one of the things that personnel has to do is to, and the council has to do, is review their committee structure to see that it's still as we would want it. And we were asked by the personnel committee to go and come up with different ways that we think the committee could work. So we came up with 4 options, and those 4 options went forward to full council, and we were asked to investigate option 4 further. Now everybody's been sent out these items to have a look at, and we've gone through the rationale, the committee sizes, committee workloads, clarity of decision making, which is another paper that I'm producing, and then we looked at how many meetings a year we could expect councillors to attend, what we expected the structure on each to be looking at, who would be running what committee, or would be the officer on the committee, because to be honest, me, David, Ros and Alan tend to work together on most things. You know, we don't work in isolation on our committees. And more importantly, it was about the frequency of how often these would run, because we were saying often we turn to meetings with just updates, because the work that we're being asked to do takes longer than the 2.5 to 3 week turnaround between the meetings. So there was a committee calendar of meetings in that as well.
Tina, has everybody got this? I mean, Tina's going through it. Is everybody able to see it, or have they looked at it previous? Because I must admit, this is really good.
Chairman,
because you've got yeah.
It was sent out to full council.
Chairman.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, just to back Tina's up, it was sent out to us, every member of the council, on the 27th of May. Just to make you aware, I've just had a note come through. Councillor Brindle, as his links dropped, so he's desperately trying to get back into the meeting.
All right.
Right. Can you find him, Tina? To readmit him?
I will call him.
Okay. Because this, I mean, this restructure, and I know we all had it come through at the end of May. I was just wondering if people had it. See, I'm lucky. I can actually see it, which makes it very much easier to discuss, because I've got it on a different piece of kit. And I was just wondering how many people were struggling with that, because the committee structure and the calendar is really well worth looking at. And I was going to say to Tina, can we put the slides up as we talk to it? If people have got it like I have, it doesn't matter. But if you haven't, it would be very handy if you could put the slides up as we go through it.
The slides aren't part of this show, because there is actually 7 pages of this report. But I think David and Ros are on now. So David, while I'm doing this, David might be able to find the committee structure slide, because I think he's got that, and the committee calendar. If I can sort of hand over the sharing to him, if he can. This is desperately running around now, trying to get them. David, would you be able to bring up those slides for me? Just tell me when you're ready. Oh, he's disappeared.
Oh, he's obviously running around very quickly. He can't get back to his mic.
Yeah, I mean, you should, according to my papers here, Tina, you should have a slide which says option 4 committee structure.
All right.
I'd struggle to find the calendar, to be honest, because I think it's just a
part.
Oh,
here we go.
Yeah, there you go.
I see that is in that thing, Tina, and then the next page is the calendar.
Yeah,
right.
We can leave the structure up there first, and get members' views on the structure.
If you give me 5 minutes, I'll try and dig that out and make it into a slide. You know, I'll just disappear off for a second.
All right. Well, whilst Tina's doing that, other members now that can see it, you've had chance that you've all seen it before because it came out with papers in the past, and it was something that we were looking to do. What is the feeling of the members as to how it's turned out? Positive or negative, basically. I think it looks really good. I like the idea. I think it means that we will actually be a lot more proactive, and as members we'll have a great deal more opportunity in making sure that we get the papers that we need, because I know that there are several of you like me who have said in the past, we can't discuss this, we haven't got a piece of paper, we're not seeing anything about it. But with this type of smaller structure and set organisations, and the calendar that follows on the next slide should give the officers chance to do the correct paperwork that we need, and it should give us chance to review it in good time. That's my feeling. Anybody else got anything that they want to add to that?
I will.
Yeah, go on, Mark.
Thank you. I just read some comments about this. I'm concerned that some of our bigger committees are actually only meet by the options I can see in front of me is to meet bi-monthly. And when we had this conversation previously at personnel, the officers were quite right to point out that the timelines sometimes given to them by councillors were quite unmanageable in bringing reports forward that we can make decisions. And some councillors, quite naturally were frustrated that, as they would quote, we're here to make decisions, and I totally subscribe to that view. But actually, to move some of the bigger committees to bi-monthly, I can just see the agendas getting packed and longer meetings. The other thing I would like to add into this, and I'm going to throw a curveball in, every one of us have other interests, businesses, charities, organisations we're involved with, alongside engagement with council business, and we're reliant on the subcommittees to do their piece of work and then bring it forward to full council, and often that appears as recommendations. And what I feel is lacking in our structure at the moment is an oversight. So I would like to investigate the possibility of a general purposes committee, so we actually, as a council, have a way of having an oversight and a strategic view of council business.
I must admit that's something that I can agree that I thought of many years ago when I was a boy on the council. We actually had a general purposes committee which worked really well. I was a boy once. I must admit I didn't. Looking at the calendar, there's only a couple of sort of bi-monthly, which was sort of July and June, which I sort of accepted because it's summertime. Most of the others were 4 and 5 meetings a month, but I agree entirely that to have a general purposes committee, the way we did it back in the day was that the chairs of the committees, the main committees, formed the general purposes, so that it gave you a chance to have a catch up. And again, I think with this new technology, it's going to be something that will happen either with a structure like this, or just the fact that because you can talk to each other so much better now, I think the chairs will start to talk to each other a great deal more. And I'd like to see a policy thereof, because we don't want to end up in a situation where, because of the technology, people are doing things that other people don't know anything about. So I think that that's something again, with the changes in technology, we need to policy and have a policy there. But I love the idea of an extra committee to do that. How does other people feel?
Chair, I've had my hand up for some considerable time.
I haven't got your picture, Dennis. I've only got your DC. You haven't got your camera on.
No, I got the camera off, but that's fine. But I did my hands up bit.
But that don't. I haven't got that because I'm not part of the. I can't get chat. So I need you to have your picture on and then put your hand up and I can see you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that'd be fine. I just did it the way I was told to.
Yeah. No. That's fine. That's just that some of us are not on it in the way that we were before. So you want to come in on that? So go ahead.
Yeah, I was going back to the committee structure. I'm also a little bit concerned that some of the committees are only going to be bi-monthly type things, because there's an awful lot of work that goes through our committees. And as Mark said, that could make agendas that are not really manageable if we continue that. So although the structure looks good to me and everything, I am concerned that the agendas will grow considerably in the intermediate months. So, that's my only opinion.
Chris Harvey has his hand up as well.
Go on, Chris.
Okay, I must admit, I'm along the same lines as Dennis. I'm very concerned about some of the things we might not be able to fit in with the meetings being too big. I mean, for example, allotments, we found we need more meetings, not less, because of the amount of work we have to do. I can understand the theory of a oversight or whatever we want it to committee, but I get more and more worried about putting too much power in the hands of the few.
Me too.
Oh yes, that's why I said we need a policy to have something done like that, to make sure that you don't let that happen. But again, I'm looking at the trouble is with these. When you look at them, it's a little bit difficult to work out because you can't see both at the same time. Because I'm looking at some of these, and there's lots of planning meetings per month. There's lots of amenities, 4, 5, 6 a month. Now I take it that's because amenities has got allotments in cemeteries in. So it would be amenities on some of them and allotments on others. Is that the way that this chart works?
No idea.
Yeah, well, that's my question with it, because going along the top of the calendar, you've got full council, personnel, finance,
Yeah.
amenities and venues.
That's
When
right.
you go back to those committees, venues, marketing and communications, and amenities has allotments and cemeteries. So you're saying 6 meetings a year. Doesn't seem to make sense.
Could I come in there, Chairman?
You certainly can, yeah.
So look, I've got the option 4 structure on my screen. In some ways, it's definitely an improvement on what we currently have. I've had issues with the current structure since it was brought in. Been around on the council long enough to have seen lots of different committees, lots of different titles and manoeuvrings, and I've never felt as if we've got it completely right. Perhaps that's not possible, but and also because things do change over time. I think my nervousness is at the moment everything is so up in the air. The fact that we're having virtual meetings, the fact the officers are sort of torn in different directions to the day job, if you like. So I'd be really nervous about us rushing this through at the moment because everything is so confusing enough as it is, let alone getting to grips with who's responsible for what and who's on what committee and that sort of thing. So that's one nervousness. But I think there's a really good opportunity for us to actually, over the next few months, do a really focused piece of work where we're all involved in actually having a chat about what does it mean to be the Countryside and Planning Committee? What's its terms of reference? What's its remit? What's its budget? And actually have a really considered review of what the council does, how we have oversight of it, and who's responsible for what. actually put a lot of thought behind it, because there's been some good work done here to think about it. But I would have lots of comments and suggestions myself, and other people would too. But I think there's a good bit of work to do over the next few months. I mean, for example, countryside and planning being lumped together. I think we all get in the mindset of knowing there's a regular monthly planning meeting, and we go along and we have a chat about planning applications. I would worry about anything being added to that, which would basically be sort of poor relation to the fact that planning would always be the focus. And also you can choose, if you've got an issue in your ward, you can choose to go to that planning meeting. Sometimes, there's nothing really sort of relevance. So I would have concerns about getting them together. But yeah, I mean, there's some good bits there and there's some not good bits. It just needs a lot of thought, really, is my feeling.
Could I come back on that, please, Chair?
You can.
If you go further in the
Put your hands
report.
down now, because I've got your little hand up.
All right, lower my hand. If you go further through the report, it actually starts going down into what the committees would do. And taking countryside and planning is one of the town council's statutory obligations. And this committee would continue to execute those duties. In addition, members would be responsible to the development and day-to-day operation of the town council's green spaces, woodlands and common grounds. Part of the work for this committee was previously undertaken by the ALP committee. Therefore, proposed monthly meetings for planning applications with an extended bi-monthly to include the countryside matters. So you would actually have the statutory planning meeting every month, but every other month there would be an additional part to that meeting which would discuss the outside areas. And one of this is because a lot of we have to get permissions for things that we do on our land and our open spaces, and therefore it seemed to sit well that they would go together, because you could discuss anything that we needed to put planning applications in for or permissions in for at the same time. Now, one of the other things we looked at was there was always been a bit of people are unhappy, what's them, what's out, what comes under what, and that's understandable. So like for properties and maintenance, if you read the report, it says the town council has seen over recent years there's been a real need to ensure better management of their properties and land portfolios. The Guildhall and St Peters are in dire need of essential maintenance and repair, and recently these issues have been addressed and work scheduled with successful funding applications aiding these works. This is an area that needs not just an acknowledgement of the town council's custodian responsibilities, but a real focus of current and ongoing actions. The Property Maintenance and Funding Committee would take on this role for all property. Those meetings would be bi-monthly from April. So actually further on, it does go down into why we've split things out and what our view was. But absolutely, I mean, this is our first stab at going further down the rabbit hole of option 4. So we would absolutely welcome people's feedback. That's why it's on today. And I agree with Terry, the committee structure is actually really difficult. And to be honest, possibly moving forward, there's a fluidity that's required to our committee structure, because we are allowed to review it every year. And actually, I think that, next year will be different again to this year. So I don't think it's something we should be afraid of changing our structure if that actually suits better what the council needs.
Actually, to both you and Terry, I'm so pleased. I just went back to the agenda, and I'm so pleased it says to review and discuss, because I think with what's happened, we didn't know about the technology we were going to be using. We didn't know all sorts of things. And this actually gives us a marvellous opportunity with email, with small groups of team meetings, send some emails out. Let's find out who in personnel are keen on what bits. Like I know that Chris and the cemeteries and the allotments and that sort of thing, and Jenny with allotments and with cemeteries. I think it would be nice for us to actually try and look at this as a way to go forward. And now we've had the officers give us this very good piece of work, and I think it's time that the members now took hold of it and said, hang on a minute, we're the ones that need to look at this. We need to say, you know, as Chris has already mentioned, you know, cemeteries are getting busier. We need to meet slightly more often, but it can be on a smaller group, and it can be with this technology. So I think perhaps we ought to get starting with just personnel to put forward their views and their interests and the bits of this that they know something about and what they can see they would like to change, and then broaden it up to the full council. We just need to get the ball rolling. If this could be put as an agenda item on all the committee agendas that are now coming up, that might be the way to do it, because each one is going to see this as a structure, and I'm sure there will be lots of members that have got different ideas and lots of knowledge that we need to get into.
Could I just... Sorry, Chair. I've got David Brooks has been asking to speak. Chris Harvey has his hand up, and Roz has put forward, would a Survey Monkey questionnaire for councillors and staff be useful?
Ah. I always think that they are a very useful way.
Yeah.
So we go with Chris first.
Okay, my main concern is the public. The technology is great, we've got it. What about the public who haven't got the internet and who like to attend the meetings?
We're actually not allowed to let them attend at the moment.
No, I understand that when things are over. I do know they can't come now, but when everything's back to normal.
When it goes back to normal, we'll review at every stage, Chris, as more and more, you know, at the moment, the legislation is this is how we have to meet.
Yeah,
and until that changes, but as soon as it's reviewed, we'll review it and we'll change accordingly.
Yeah, because we must make sure that the people we're accountable to can actually listen and see what we're doing.
Yes, but we normally all our meetings are not public meetings, but they are meetings that are held in public. So surely we will be going back to that at some stage. Hopefully some bright spark will give us an injection or a tablet. I'm hoping for a tablet because I hate needles that I can take and then never have to worry about this thing anymore. And we can get back, because it is so difficult for us, even with this. You know, you like to see the people. I mean, I can't see Chris. I didn't see Dennis. I can't, you know, some of the bits work, some of it don't. But yes, when we get back out there, we want to be able to say to the public, this is what we did, and for them to say, Nick, you did a damn good job, and thanks for keeping us in the loop. I believe you said that David wanted to speak next.
Yes, please.
David.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points. Just to go back to Councillor Robinson's earlier comment, if you look at the committee structure and take ALP, which is probably our biggest subcommittee, that's actually their responsibilities are divided up between 3 of those proposed committees: amenities, countryside, and part of property was in their current responsibilities. So we are sort of slimlining those, but in terms of amenities, they've lost some but gained allotments and cemeteries. But clearly, if there is a need for an additional meeting, then, you know, we can call an emergency meeting. So if there is something specific about cemeteries, for instance, Councillor Harvey, there's no reason why we can't call an additional meeting. When we had the meeting back in March, the 4th of March, the brief from the Personnel Committee there was to be bold. And I think this is quite a bold proposal. The good thing is, as Councillor Jeremy also said, at least we're doing it at the beginning of the calendar year. So hopefully we can progress through and not catch ourselves cold in January and trying to change something that is a bigger proposal as this. But let's keep the progression going, because certainly in terms of some of the anomalies that we've had with committees before, this certainly is a more sensible approach. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Chair, can I come back on that, please?
Yes.
Because I weren't quite sure what point David was referring to. I'm assuming, I'm going to make the assumption, unless I'm corrected, that it was in reference to my request that we look at the General Purposes Committee, and I still hold to that because it's great that extra meetings can be called for help, personnel, etc., etc., etc. But we collectively, as a body, don't have a structure at the moment where we have an overview of overall council business. And I recognise councillors' concerns about a general purpose committee or whatever you would wish to call it, you know, overriding committee structure, and you want to see that. But councillors do need to have an overall structure and a strategic vision for the council going forward. And working in separate committees does form silos. So I would like, as we, you know, I suspect we're not going to reach any conclusion today, but going forward, I would like to see that option investigated.
Thank you, Mark. David wants to come back.
No, it wasn't about the point of general purposes committee, Mark. It was more. It was more the comment about how you were worried that bi-monthly meetings might allude to big agendas for certain committees. Actually, it's streamlined the committees, so therefore their agendas should be able to cover bi-monthly. But as I say, if there's a point that needs to be raised within that time, we can call an emergency meeting.
Chair.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming back, David. But David, I think you've forgotten how much us councillors like to talk.
Very true. Basically, if I can come back to where we sort of started, is it possible for this slide to go to all committees as they meet over the next little while? I think this is a great starting place. As I say, I like the idea of general purposes, always have done, but there will be other members that don't. But this seems to me to be the very good place to start, where we're getting it on the ball, and as we just said, we're doing it at the right time with our calendar. So if we can get this moving and get it into each of the committees, and then take up Ross's idea of a survey monkey. I thought that was like the Arctic Monkeys. They played the band, but there you go. I'm quite happy to go with something like that to get this actually rolling, because I think I agree with Terry. I've never liked the structure that we had before. So let the members and the officers get a structure that we all like to work with, and I think that's possibly the way to do it. How's the feeling on that?
Can I just say that all councillors have received this, but what we can do is I'll go back and talk to the staff and see how we can present it so it's more committee centric for each committee.
Can I make another suggestion, Chair? Is that okay?
Yes, of course it is, Terry.
I think one of the things I've learned over the time I've been on the council is it's really important for the officers they have a specific remit. And one of the things I quite like about the structure in front of me is there's basically a lead officer pretty much for each committee, although a couple of them have two committees to look after. And I think it might be useful we can maybe consider in the future is each officer doing a presentation, because we've got the technology now to do that, a presentation of this is the committee and this is how I envisage the workload to be. And the issues that I want support and guidance and advice from the committee to come. Because having that synergy between the committee and the officers giving a direction as to what they see as countryside and planning and the sort of roadmap ahead, I think would be really beneficial for us, because we've all got our own opinions about bits and pieces, but it'd be useful for us to understand what's included within each committee. And for officers to outline a sort of roadmap, if you like, of what they would see as being involved in each one.
Would we do that, do you think, Terry, as an extra full council meeting, so we were all there at the same time, or a couple of those, and pick two officers and then another two and then another two over the coming weeks?
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be best for Tina to advise whether we need to do it as in a formal meeting structure or just an informal presentation, because I've really enjoyed the different informal things where we've had briefings and whatnot over the last few months, because we've actually learned quite a lot and it's not sort of bogged down in a formal meeting structure. But in terms of our own learning, and particularly I'm conscious of newer members of the council, I was around when there was no amenities committee. We didn't have play areas, and we didn't have toilets, and we didn't have a lot of land as a council. So things have changed a lot over the years, and I think we need a bit of a recap as to what our responsibilities are legally, what we choose to do, and also what some of our ambitions are with the big projects and that sort of thing. So yeah, I don't mind how we do it, but I suggest a sort of informal presentation will be most flexible.
Yeah,
Could,
what I was trying to say there was we need everybody involved, not just us. And using the word meeting or full meeting obviously isn't right. I agree with you entirely. The training bits I've been doing with various councils, the presentations that have been made on how this works, how that works, they've been totally informal. Everybody's had their say. Been absolutely a joy way to work in council. It makes this technology worth its weight in gold. I nearly said something else.
Did you just say technology is worth its weight in gold?
Yeah.
Where I've tried putting my hand up. I've tried putting my hand up on the
I
thing.
see, you know.
I'm not getting anywhere with everybody else is getting a say, but I tend to agree with what Terry said a lot. I think we need to look into it more in depth. I'd be interested to know if you do put that committee made up of chairs and everything through, where it would sit in the diagram and everything, and how does it affect the decision making of each of the committees? Does that override the decisions of the committees, or is it just going to be a talking shop? So I'd like to know a lot more about it.
could I come back on that, please?
Yes.
Previously, it would have no different delegation than any other committee, so it wouldn't override other committees. It would have to abide by the same delegations and the same structures as any other committee meeting, but I'm assuming that Councillor Robson means that it would be strategic as opposed to actually getting into the weeds of all the different projects. But it certainly wouldn't be in a position to override any other committee. Or it shouldn't be, because that's how our committees are set up. The other thing I would say is, yes, I agree with Terry and Roy. I think the best way to work would be to have the working groups, shall we say, rather than meetings where the officers involved can actually talk to the actual committees, and we can iron out what they think works about that committee and what doesn't. And I think when we reach a point that each committee is ready to bring it forward formally, then they can put forward their piece to the committee and therefore to full council. And then at the end of that process, we will have things that we can put together to finalise it. So it's definitely work in progress. But I think the more we talk about it, and technology gives us the ability to do that, because we don't all have to be in the same room, makes life a lot easier. I think that if we can start working in those smaller groups, that's beneficial to all of us.
Yes.
Yeah,
Can I just ask a question, Roy?
You certainly can.
Right. So if you just took amenities will be discussing allotments and cemetery. So if you actually joined that committee, that's the heading under which you would be working, allotments and cemetery, plus all the other stuff that's in amenities. Is that what we're saying? Or are we saying that at the amenities, the people that are interested in allotments and cemetery will then just join the allotments and cemetery committee?
Can I just come back on that as well, please? If you had the amenities committees, the allotments and cemeteries would come under it. I would suggest that when you set up the committee, that you would set up designated working groups. So within amenities, you would have a working group with its separate terms of reference for allotments, and a working group within cemeteries that has its own terms of reference and delegations as well. And therefore they would do their work, but they would report as they normally would, but they would report that work through amenities. So they would have an option monthly to bring things forward, or bi-monthly to bring things forward.
Yeah, that's what I thought it meant. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I don't think we can take this very much further now. I think we're all in agreement. This is a hell of a place to start. And we now just need to get it out there so that the rest of the councillors can come back. I like the idea of the Survey Monkey. Shall we get that done? And if we can get this onto each agenda so that all the councillors get this small presentation of what we're looking for them to tell us, and then bring it back to the next meeting. How does people feel about that?
Yeah. Roy, can I comment, please?
You can.
First to say, I'm sorry I've been out of the meeting for about 45 minutes, not through my own wish, but because having got out for some reason in some way, I couldn't get back in again. And obviously the technology is at the moment defeating me. And I think it's something that I need to discuss with someone, because I don't feel in control of the screen in front of me. Secondly, as a result of that, I've obviously missed this major discussion about the way we go forward, and I'm concerned about that, because I had an input before and do think there are opinions that I would like to have brought forward. I am concerned that what has in fact changed over the past few years is not so much the structure, but the amount of work involved. So we don't have now the indifference that the previous council showed to some of the work done on open spaces, for example. We spend far more time on that than we used to, quite rightly, in my opinion. We're actually doing things that we should have done years and years ago that we didn't do. So the result is that ALP in particular has grown in work, and to some extent VEM as well. And that was where I think the starting point was, that those two committees have got unwieldy with too much work. Because they were wide-ranging, they attracted a good big membership. I think that's quite a healthy sign, but obviously some people feel it makes it less efficient if you have 10, 11 members rather than 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'd take that. So I just feel that there's plenty more discussion needed, and perhaps what you're saying is right, that we open it up now to everybody to have a rethink on maybe some specific options that are put forward. Is that the way forward you had in mind, that we'd have, that everybody would have a proposal or 2 or 3 proposals, and then we could discuss them again? Is that roughly right?
In fact, Mike, you have done extremely well. You've not been at the meeting for 45 minutes, and you've summed it up absolutely perfectly. It must be something they teach you to do as a school teacher. Couldn't have asked for more. You know, yes, it's important, it's changing, it needs a lot more discussion from the full council, and everybody can put their bit in and come up with ideas, because this is only going to make it better for the council. I've got David Brooks, I think, wants to come up. I can see his hand up.
No, sorry, no problem. No.
Oh, no, okay. I've got your hand up, so you have to put it down. So, I mean, basically, if we're in agreement with what Mike said as well, that we put this out there and we get people discussing it and bring it back to the next meeting. Is that what everybody feels?
Yep, agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Now can I go on to the training update, please, Town Clerk? 2120 training update.
Yeah, so I think, you know, we all had some 365 training, which I think was very, very useful. The senior staff are due to get some more training on SharePoint and loading into presentations and all that sort of thing. So I think we're just getting an hour on Friday, because we're actually uploading everything from our server into SharePoint over the next week or so. So that's quite exciting. So Carla's taken on an allotments management level 3 course, because he's done all the normal parish council ones. So we just wanted something a bit more sort of meaty for him to get stuck into, and hopefully that will bring some innovation with it. Nick is, or I shouldn't say that, the cemetery officer is looking for something a bit more than just the normal town and parish council training as well, just so about cemetery management. So we're looking just for the next step up of training for him, but we haven't actually found anything yet that we're that we would like for that. I've done some stuff about working from home and trying to get all our workflow, and like I say, our 365. We're going to start using Planner, hopefully, which will make our workflow within 365. So that's what we're looking at that. And there's a couple of the councillors have got courses coming up as well. And I think yesterday I agreed with the Deputy Town Clerk that she's going to do a public engagement course as well to help us getting all our surveys out there and making us sort of better at reaching the public. Again, I think I would expect to see people wanting to do more virtual training potentially this year. And the trainers have actually changed their training to reflect that in some cases. So if there's anything that people want, I'll keep sending out the training newsletters. Please let me know.
Thank you. Mark?
Thank you. It's just worth noting, Chair, that Tina kindly forwarded a suite of 9 online training sessions from NALC, starting from the 22nd of June all the way through to July. And there were 3 that were particularly relevant for this committee. Well, one of them is a general one, managing local council meetings during COVID. 30th of June, there's a good appraisal training session delivered online. And there's on the 14th of July, there's managing performance. So that email went out on Friday. Tina, just slightly away from training, talking to surveys, we were approached after full council. I think Ross sent out a survey asking our views on the virtual meeting platforms. Could we have that survey circulated to us? I haven't seen the results of that.
Roz is on the meeting. Roz?
Is that possible?
Yeah, but I'll get that sent out.
Thank you, Roz.
Right. Yeah, I must admit, I'm just waiting for EasyJet to tell me whether I can go during those dates to Mauritius. But if that's not possible, I suppose I can sit in the dining room and try and learn a bit more. I think that's a good idea. Thanks for that. Anything else for anybody on training? No? Community engagement. I think really we're doing extremely well, but if we can get a bit more out there for the public to see, and I, like Chris, am very concerned that we make it really known to them that, you know, this is transparent. You know, it's not like it used to be. They can't always come, but we will be putting stuff out to make sure that they're fully up to date with what we're doing, and any meetings that we can get YouTubed and out there, we're going to. And I think we really need to keep the public in our sites all the time so that they know that we're trying to do our best for them. I don't know if anybody else has got anything they think ought to go out. No. In that case, we'll move to 2320, which is the exclusion of press and public. I don't think we've got any of either here, so we'll take it from there. Now, I understand, and I'm sure Tina will say who and what, anybody that is been sort of put forward for various disciplinary things and what have you, can't stay for this part of the meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, below the line, we stopped the public stream, Staff are leaving. David should be leaving in a moment. Ros has left. Councillor